The title of today's talk is I Am, Through You, So We. And really, it's about praise and gratitude for this beloved community, heart-to-heart community. And got just a couple of poems, one on praise and one on gratitude, and sort of aspirational too. So that's where we're headed. And um, the reason I'm sitting here in Kentucky is years ago, 1980. Uh, I took a group of boys from just kind of a football high school in Houston, Texas, that was nominally Catholic, but really football was the religion. Took 25 boys up on a bus. Took about 20 hours to get up to the monastery of Gethsemane, the Mertens Monastery, because I got interested in Merton. And I'm telling you, one thing leads to another. They never had a group. They don't have groups there, and they had never had a group of young boys. They were juniors and seniors in college, a few sophomores. So we all came for a week and fell in love with the place. Fell in love with the head of the retreat house, Father Gregory, and came back the next year. And then the next year, Pam and I moved up here in 1982, and we've been here ever since. And, you know, I spent about 18 years hanging around the monastery. Every month I'd walk with Father Gregory and talk about things. He was my spiritual director for almost 20 years. He died in 2000. And so I hung around there a lot. And, I was there often for the 3:15 chanting, 3:15 in the morning. And I remember the first time I heard it with the boys. We were in there, we all showed up for all the hours from 3:15 till 7:30 at night, seven different times of chanting. The monks there, their practice is to chant the 150 Psalms, the 150 prayers, ancient prayers from the Jewish tradition. And that first morning, um, it was a dark vigils. Vigils is the 3:15 chanting. It was a dark vigils, and there one guy chants. They chant this one line from Psalm 51 three times to start every day. And some of these guys had been there for over 50 years. They chant this first line three times to begin their day, and it goes like this: "Oh Lord, open my lips, and my mouth will declare your praise. Oh Lord, open my lips, and my mouth will declare your praise." And then they get going with the other psalms. But oh Lord, open my lips, and my mouth will declare your praise. And they start the day, and the whole day is about praise. Praise for being alive, praise for all this, you know. And it struck the boys, and because praise is not a big thing, but it is in spiritual traditions. You go from tradition to tradition. The Tibetans, when the Dalai Lama sits down, or in his and in probably all the traditions, they start out with praise and gratitude and welcoming, and then they go into their regular meditation. So praise and gratitude and really welcoming people in. That's why anybody can come to this, and everybody's welcome. So I want to start with a psalm of praise, and because basically it's about praise and gratitude for this community, for this experience of the community. I am through you, so we sort of tease that out too. But here's what I call a psalm of praise. And I started my morning meditation today early on. It wasn't even light yet in the Zendo. We saw a picture of 21 people in the Zendo from 2 years ago, sort of packed. Hopefully, it'll be tighter this year. Or maybe we'll have to figure out a way to get a bigger space. I don't know. But I always start the day with this. I light all the candles, and then I sit down, and when I'm ready to go, I start this song of praise. Oh, beloved one, Your oceanic womb births infinite blessing in waves of darkness and light. Oh, beloved one, your oceanic womb births infinite blessing in waves of darkness and light. The Buddhas and saints are merely leaky rowboats that sing praise to each and every wave. The Buddhas and saints are merely leaky rowboats that sing praise to each and every wave. You know, that's what I start with every day. Uh, and it was influenced, the first stanza, "Oh, beloved one, your oceanic womb births infinite blessing in waves of darkness and light." That's basically my uh, rendering of the first line of the Lord's Prayer, so-called, from the Aramaic. It's a praise to, it got translated into "Our Father who art in heaven, be thy name," goes on from there. But it's the praises to the beloved one, whatever you call it. You call it the great mystery, you could call it Allah, you could call it Rahman, you could call it the Tao. We all throw names at it, but it's just a praise for all of this and what somehow brings back. I'm looking out the window, these trees all look dead, and then by the time you get here, if you come to the thing, it's about 2 3 weeks, it'll all be green again. How did that happen? That's why Lent, uh, which is really means spring, is, even though it gets connected with ashes and penance and giving up stuff, and that's all okay, but it really is starts with a kind of ashes and deadness, and it ends up with the Hallelujah chorus and resurrection. And what is the life force energy that makes that happen every year? And it's really good to uh, focus on that image in a dark time. You know, Infinite blessing in waves of darkness and light. The waves of darkness are blessing too, as well. We think of blessing as in grace as just something friendly, something great happens to you. It was a great grace to in the middle of the darkness of COVID to go out on this Zoom plank, whatever it was going to be. No idea what it could turn into at the time. I got a better idea now. I haven't lived here for 5 years, but out of that darkness came great light. So it's a very dark time. There's a couple of wars going on, Pakistan and Afghanistan, and now Israel and the United States and Iran. Dark. We have the darkness in our own streets here, but somehow it's all a blessing. And it's a leap to see that. A leap to see that. And then the second stanza, the Buddhas and saints are merely leaky rowboats that sing praise to each and every wave. We tend to think of the Buddhas and the saints and all the tradition as these extraordinary people. And on one level, they are extraordinary, but on another level, they're absolutely ordinary, like you and me. In our cathedral here in town, uh, we have Jesus and Mary, a picture of Jesus and Mary, and then we have the 12 apostles around. And they were all done from pictures of ordinary citizens of Bardstown. The artist took Jesus from his own son, and then Mary was a picture of his own daughter, and then there's all these local guys who ran the milk company and all that kind of stuff. So the idea that Buddhas and saints, like from the beginning, were like extraordinary, no, they're just ordinary people. And in fact, they're leaky rowboats. They all have holes and they all have, you know, uh, things to overcome. But it's good to be a leaky rowboat because you're letting in the ocean. You're letting in the ocean of love. Uh, they're merely leaky rowboats, but they sing praise to each and every wave. Well, yeah, so I start with that every day. It's a psalm of praise. And uh, Francis Weller, who some of you know, who's a great grief master. Um, I love Weller. Read everything he's written. But it goes back to human beings for most of our life. We didn't live in cities and we didn't live in empires. That all came later, much later. For most of our life on this planet, human beings on this planet, we were hunters and gatherers living in small clans. And that's in our DNA. So Weller says something very interesting. He says, when we are born, we are meant to be greeted by 40 pairs of eyes. What does it mean there? Well, that was about the size of 40 was about the size of a clan. And if it got bigger than that, then you're talking tribe. And if it got bigger than that, then, you know, then it's a town. And then it's then it's a nation state. You got millions of people. So we have 340 million people. So in this United States of America, when we were born, when we're born, we're meant to be greeted by 40 pairs of eyes. Uh, and, we don't live that way anymore. At least we're not born that way. We're usually greeted by maybe two pairs of eyes. Sometimes it's one pair of eyes, a single mother. Okay. Uh, maybe you have I was greeted by, I guess, five pairs of eyes, my mom and dad and my grandmother, and then my two older sisters. Um, and I lucked out because there was a lot of love in those eyes. But back when we were living on the rough and tumble of being hunter gatherers on the move, and uh, it was great to have 40 pairs of eyes because maybe your mother couldn't love you, or maybe your father couldn't love you, or your brothers and sisters didn't love you, but somebody could look at you with love. And that's the whole idea of the 40 pairs of eyes. Somebody, maybe it was an uncle, maybe it was an auntie. They didn't have a nuclear families back then, you see. And so it's very interesting that, uh, that there's somewhere between 30 and 40 pairs of eyes that show up here too. Uh, and I am through you. So we, it's affected me deeply to um, be in your presence looking at 30 or 40 pairs of eyes that with a lot of love in them towards the whole community. You know, uh, Somebody said, "Well, I'm getting interested in Alan Watts. Can you suggest something?" These are kinds of questions I get all the time. And so I said, "Yeah, yeah." And I said, listen to Alan Watts. Don't try to read the books. But Watts was talking to a group, and he says, "We have an ocean, and then we have the beach, and then we have land." And he says, "It all depends on how you look at it." He says, if you look at it one way, the beach separates the ocean from the land. But if you look at it a totally other way, the way that Watts looked at everything, being a Taoist, he was a famous Taoist. If you look at it the other way, you can see the beach that connects the ocean to the land. And, so often people have talked about us being in Hollywood squares, like in our little squares, but, those little squares connect more than they separate. That's another way to look at the squares. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, uh, here this is a poem that's called "A Beloved Community," and it's the subtitle is called "What We Aspire to." The center of our heart-to-heart interspiritual community is contemplation and action that trusts in the healing energy of love. Our ongoing group practice is centered on opening the heart to the inner experience of wisdom and compassion. This contemplative practice empowers us to engage with the world with radical hospitality, collective generosity, mutual encouragement, and finally, with solidarity and unarmed love in the face of violence and injustice. We are a joyful community that trusts in the fierce urgency of love. We are a joyful community that trusts in the fierce urgency of love. I want to make a few points about that. This is really it's a song of gratitude for all of you. And the term "a beloved community," I'm not sure who coined it, but uh, Martin Luther King used it a lot. And it's a community that is a community of love. Whatever you think God is, and anything you think God is too small for what this life force energy that will bring these seemingly dead trees back to life, bring all this brown scrap into green and dandelions and all that. I mean, this life force energy that for some reason keeps bringing life back on this planet. It's like, how many million years ago, 10 million years ago, boom, asteroid off the Yucatan, everything dies, except for these small little kind of mole kind of characters that are living beneath the earth. And then, it all came back. We're human beings. We're the asteroid now. We're messing with the planet and it's struggling. Uh, but it'll come back. There's some energy that just brings it back despite asteroids or stupid human beings. They just want to grab, 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 grab. Uh, so you can choose to call it whatever you want, or don't call it anything. Uh, Love is what Dante called it, what Jesus called it, or at least in the Gospel of John. Love is it. God is love. So it doesn't matter. We're talking about this life force energy that changes everything. It's changed me being here Sunday after Sunday with you, looking at these pairs of eyes. Love. Somebody who was talking about given the talk here and hasn't done it yet. I said, "Oh, do it." I said, this is the greatest group to talk to. Doesn't matter if you goof up or whatever. There's just a terrific amount of love that's looking back at you. That's how I feel. So, but at least when I say what we aspire to, uh, I'm speaking for a huger we than the 40 of us. But it doesn't matter how many people are here. It's bigger than the sum of these parts. And what we aspire to, and that's to trust in the healing energy of love, not bombs. You're never going to get to peace by bombing people. We're going to bomb Iran, and then it's going to be peace and love for everybody. Never has worked. There's the energy of love. I'm not talking about love, love, love. Like the emotion. I'm talking. There's a healing energy And it comes across through Zoom, this group. And our ongoing group practice is centered on just opening the heart to the inner experience of wisdom and compassion. And then that's first of all. That's why the heart to heart is a silent meditation, is a contemplative experience where it's really simple. I'm going to really try to simplify it in my introduction to it today, but it's very simple. We're opening the heart, and we're talking about the spiritual heart, which is connected to everything, both out here, in here. It's the connector, it's the Bluetooth, connects all the parts. Um, I am through you, so we. That's kind of a Thich Nhat Hanh would like that phrase because that was what he was all about. His community was called a community of interbeing. In other words, every being is connected to every being, including the dandelions, the worms, the redbirds. We're connected. I am through you, so we. When I walked this morning, it was a great morning to walk. Every once in a while, when I was trudging a little bit, I just stopped and breathed in all of this. When I breathed out, I said, I am through you. So we. It was a kind of, it's a kind of ecstatic gatha, something to breathe in Thich Nhat Hanh's tradition. You know, all of this is here for us. And maybe you have to have a serious illness, a war, uh, cancer, something brings you to the brink, and then you realize how precious all of this is. And I am through you. You mean all of this, meaning the great mystery, meaning this group of 40 or so folks, week in, week out. And you have to open your heart to that. The mind doesn't see it. The mind sees the squares as dividers. The mind divides. That's what the left brain does. Okay. When the Buddhists talk about mind, capital M, they're talking about both the left brain and the right brain connected, you see. That's what big mind means, as Suzuki Roshi said. And they use a small mind, really just the left brain alone. Okay. Uh, and that will always isolate you. That makes you feel like a separate individual, which is the ultimate illusion. Physicists will tell you that. Biologists will tell you that. Everything's connected to everything else. But the left brain doesn't. The left brain can convince you that you're all alone. You're not. So the heart is the thing that connects us with reality, inner experience of wisdom and compassion, and then that comes. You can give that. The contemplative practice that will practice. This is all contemplative practice when you're listening with the ear of the heart to a talk. That's practice. But all these contemplative practices empower us to engage the world, to be engaged. Thich Nhat Hanh he was known for starting a thing that was called engaged Buddhism. In other words, the whole idea is not just to sit by yourself and meditate, meditate, meditate. It's to be engaged with all of this, to really realize your connection. And this is what I think. This is what I feel that we aspire to in this group: radical hospitality. You don't have to pass a litmus test to get in. It's posted there on my Monday morning thing. Anybody's welcome. So radical hospitality. We don't see that in our country and the world now. Certain people can come to this country and other people cannot. There's a whole range of people now that can't even come to this country from various countries, mostly brown and black people. So radical hospitality that we show in this group, collective generosity. You That's why I always say, gee, I hope you can stay for the conversation part where the community so generously chips into their reflections, their um, what they're resonating with. This is a very generous group. It's unbelievable. And then mutual encouragement. Yeah, this is is really part of this whole practice of just getting together, mutual encouragement. So hospitality, generosity, encouragement, and finally a kind of solidarity and unarmed love. That's what the love is, the most powerful weapon in the world to in the face of violence and injustice. Minnesota showed us that one more time, just like the civil rights era in the 60s. We're having to learn that idea again as we face more guns and um, our own country attacking its own citizens. Unarmed love in the face of violence and injustice. And ultimately, I think we're a joyful community. I enjoy coming. I wouldn't miss it because no matter what the talk, no matter mine or anybody else's, there's a sense of joy here that keeps us together. Why else, you don't go to hell if you miss one of these on a Sunday. No, I tell people still do. They text me and say, I can't make it. I'm blah, blah, blah. And I said, it's all right. You're not going to hell here. that's another, that's another thing. No, we come because there's joy here. But also we trust in the fierce urgency of love. There's a fierce urgency of love right now. And we've got to build up that force in our small group and then bring that into the world. Love, the healing power of love and nothing else. I don't know what else works. All right. Well, let me give you a little lead in here to meditation. We'll segue to our silent thing. Here's a quote from Merton. This was a quote from the end of his life. Merton didn't know he was going to die in Bangkok. He wasn't even, I think he was 52. Uh, he didn't know that. But this was a talk he was giving to an interfaith group, people from all traditions in, I think, Calcutta. And he said the deepest level of communication is not communication, but communion. Um, it's wordless, beyond words, beyond speech, beyond concept. Now, that's a very good definition of what happens when the words stop here and we go into the silence. Deepest level of communication is not communication. This is deep, but communion. And that's what we have in the center of, and the second and third movement is communion. In the silent meditation, is communion with the eternal and the infinite, whatever you want to call that, this life force energy that some people call God. Probably better not to use that word because we've already put God in some kind of terrible box. And so we're going. It's wordless. It's beyond words. It's beyond speech, and that's why we let go of thought. We let go of all the left brain chatter. It keep coming up. We let it go because we're trying to be connected with something that's beyond words and beyond speech and beyond concept. Any idea you have of God is wrong. Any idea I have of God is wrong. And he says, not that we discover a new unity, but we discover an older unity. There's unity has always been there. This not to-ness has always been there. You see, this interbeing has always been there. And he said, my dear brothers and sisters, we are already one, but we imagine we are not. And what we have to recover is our original unity. And then a great one-liner from Merton. I really think he has some of the greatest one-liners of any of the people I've read. He said, what we have to be is what we are. We don't have to be anything special. What we have to be is what we are. And that's what meditation's all about. It's actually just quieting down and just being there. So I'm going to just use a short poem that I've used many times before working with people to give us a few words that lead us into the silence. And then the recording will end and we'll be on our own with the infinite. The poem is called The Hokey Pokey. Some of you know it. I know it by heart. So just let's move into meditation mode. Maybe you change your seat. If sometimes Vivian goes and sits on the floor, that's fine. But just sort of straighten up a little bit. You're supported by chairs, most of us, which is great. The Buddha didn't have them; they weren't available in the jungle. Jesus probably never had a chair either. This is great that you can sit. You don't have to sit cross-legged. All right, and this is as simple as it gets in terms of understanding what you do in meditation, or what do you undo. So I'll recite it a couple times, and then we'll go into silence. You make awareness the master, and thinking the servant. You make now primary and time secondary. You make being your purpose, and doing flows from it. That's how you turn yourself around. And that's really what it's all about. So this simple thing, because if any of you guys who have uh, caught on to the whole brain living view of what the difference is between the right brain and the left brain, this is moving from the left brain to the right brain. It's a system. The left brain thinks, the right brain is aware. The left brain has a clock, time, and the right brain is in the now. The left brain is about doing, the right brain is about being. And so we're taking just a practice time of just leaving the left brain of thinking and time and doing. There's really nothing to do when you meditate. You shift over into awareness, which is your awareness is here in my words now. You may be thinking about them too. That's extra. So we're moving into being aware now. There's no doing. You're just letting go of the doing, the thinking, and the time element. I'll keep the time. So one more time. I'll just repeat it and then we'll have the silence. This is the hokey pokey. You make awareness master and thinking the servant. You make now primary and time secondary. You make being your purpose, and doing flows from it. That's how you turn yourself around. And that's really, really what it's all about.